If you like your snacks in the shape of Mickey, you're in the right place. This is the Mousecapades Radio Network, entertaining the space between your ears since 2015.
Now, from the Mousecapades Studios, here are your hosts.
Happy Friday, Mousecapades listeners. This is Vickie, and I'm here with Matt, and we pray that you're all staying safe, happy, and healthy. This is episode 791, and you're listening to the number one podcast that entertains that space between your ears, the Mousecapades and More podcast.
Before we get started, we'd like to remind you that Mousecapades podcast is part of Your Story Travel Company. At Your Story Travel Company, we can plan a magical trip for you anywhere in the world. Text Vickie or me, Matt, for a free quote at 636-373-4497.
So Matt had an idea that we could talk to the listeners about, is Disney a vacation or isn't it? And so we're going to discuss that. You probably heard people say this before. Can Disney be a vacation, or do you need a vacation from your vacation?
Yeah.
Matt's going to kind of like kick it off, and then we're just going to banter off of each other and talk about this and hopefully let you know that it's possible to do both.
It is possible to do both. But I'm always like, because every time we leave, I'm like, we need a vacation from this vacation, which always leads me to say, this isn't a vacation, it's an experience.
This is true. That is a good way to say it.
Because you're not just doing one thing, you're not just going to the beach and that's it. I mean, there's such a multitude of experiences and dining and you know how it is. It's a lot. So we'll start off with once in a lifetimers. People going, they're like, hey, let's just go once. Let's go all out. Do we go slow? Do we go hard? I think a lot of it's personality. Like, do you like to, get up early and go hard, or do you like to wake up late? It's such a different, I don't even know.
If you wake up late, though, I feel like now you miss out on things.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely, you're going to miss out on having the park to yourself for a few hours.
That too. I just meant like you might, if you have a Genie Plus, you could miss out on some rides, and then it could get really backed up depending upon the time of year that you're there.
Yeah, some of those Genie Pluses go real quick. We have yet to use a Genie because I'm like pretty anti, but we have our strict plan because we're nuts and we just go and go and go. And that's where I'm like, when you hear vacation, you relate that immediately to just relaxing.
Right.
So to me, when I think of a vacation, I think of like a fishing trip. It's pretty low pace, low pressure, or, a beach trip. That's a vacation. So when I go to Disney, I don't expect to relax. I don't expect to get sleep. I expect for, sore feet and lots of fun. But that's how we attack it.
Right. And so you do have to do whatever's good for your family. And so, I mean, that going in, but I think honestly, we don't get that, or people don't do that so much in the United States, but in other countries, they take a holiday and they come for 2 weeks to a month sometimes.
Yeah.
And they might spend 2 weeks at Disney and not even going every day. Although I did hear some lady on a vlog say that she went for 14 days to Disney. And as much as I love Disney, can you even imagine?
I've done 10.
We have done 10 too, but we also took breaks. 2 breaks, I think. Like we did a few days and then took a break, and then did it a few days and took a break. So that's the thing to know, is what is going to work for your family. If you're coming from another country and you have 14 days, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
I would take at least 2 breaks, maybe even 4 breaks during your 14 days there, and go in the morning and then chill out every afternoon, and then go back either to this. If you have a park hopper, you can go back to same park or go to a different park. That's how I would attack it. Is that how you would do it? Or
well, it's the caveat is time. If I got 14 days, that's like, okay, I'm gonna do 1 park day, 1 water park day, 1 pool day. But if I only have 5 days,
yes,
I'm like, it's nobody is sleeping.
No sleep for the weary.
Yeah. So if you're coming down for, like we always recommend, if you're coming down for a first time, so once in a lifetime trip, 7 days. That's like the minimum, because there's so much. Yeah, I mean, if I had that much time, you could go so slow paced, but who has that much time except for most Europeans? I think your average person is probably going to do 6 days.
Yeah, I would say most people book 6 to 7 days.
Generalize, and in a 6-day window, you really need to stay focused on what you want to do. I mean, you don't have to be military about it, but I think we always say, pick your top 5, focus on those, and everything after that's a bonus.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, and that's being under the clock. And if that's a once in a lifetime thing, the pressure's going to be there regardless. Now, when we start to get into like the every few years, you can start to pick and choose stuff. Like, oh, here's our favorites. Let's do repeats and then do some new things. Be a little more adventurous. And then you get into the wackos like us that are every year. You can do what you want because you know you're coming back.
Right.
Like, I always hear that from people like, oh, we don't know if we'll come back. What should we do? And I'm just like, oh, that's the worst feeling. And we're blessed to not feel that much.
Yes.
So it's nothing to miss something. Like past 2 trips, I missed Tower of Terror. So when I was down there by myself, I made sure to do that because I'm like, I'll be back. But if you're like, I'm going to be back for 10 years, that's
a long time.
Yeah, that's a real long time.
I can't even imagine. One of Kaylee's friends just went. Literally, they did what I said that I wanted to do to ride Splash Mountain.
Oh, yeah, nice.
They left on Friday and then they came back on Sunday. And I didn't realize she had been there, but it'd been 10 years. Well, you know how much has happened just at Magic Kingdom alone and Hollywood Studios in the last 10 years.
They're different places.
She didn't go to Hollywood Studios. She just went to Magic Kingdom. But I was just thinking of all that. They didn't even have time to go to Disney Springs because that was Downtown Disney when she was there the last time. And she was a child and totally crazy. But the one thing I was going to say is if it's a once in a lifetime, that is when not that it's ever wrong. If you have the money to pay for the deluxe resorts all the time,
yeah,
then I guess that's okay. But if it's for sure, you don't think you're going to do this again, ever, I would say do it. That is the one thing that I did learn from staying at Polynesian Club level. I know why people do that.
Yeah.
It's because you want it to be top notch. You know it's going to be your only time. And you do feel like you have a vacation because I did feel like that. That was one of Kaylee's things that she had asked for. She didn't say Polynesian. She said, Mom, can we do something where the last 3 days we're actually just doing relaxing things? She said, we'll still be in the Disney bubble, so we'll still feel those feels, but also we'll have time to relax. So, Polynesian, I'm sure Grand Floridian's the same way. I know Wildernesses because we did Wilderness. I've even done Old Key West. Really, Old Key West, if you're not a park person, that's where people should stay. Although I do know people that go to the park. There's another podcast that goes there all the time and they love it. It was slow paced for me. Have you ever stayed there?
No, but I've been there. I've walked around it and it definitely has that Key West vibe to it. And people love that. It's like the OG DVC resort.
Yes.
That's a nice resort. And you can get great deals on that sometimes.
Yeah, well, Gina had got her Clio points with it, and there was 6 or 8 of us. There was 9 of us because we had 3 teenagers and then 6 adults, and we stayed in a 2-bedroom, and it was really, really nice. But I felt like there was a lot of, and I know I'm not young, but there was a lot of more sophisticated people there, and that are not in a hurry, and we're still wanting to do the parks and kind of in a hurry. And I felt like we waited no less than 20 minutes every day for a bus. And it was just kind of crazy to me. But yeah, sorry, I digressed. But yeah, so if you are coming and you know this is going to be your only time and you can do 7 to 10 days, that would be ideal.
Mm-hmm. And when you have that more time and you're, at a better resort, there's so many things that you can fill up your time with. Like for Polynesian, like Trader Sam's, amazing volcano pool. Like there's a whole day's worth of stuff to do just at the resort.
Right. Well, we enjoyed the quiet pool.
Yeah. Where like Pop, there's just pretty bare minimum pools, a lot of families. It's loud. It's a very different feel. I mean, it's still fun. Like we're huge Pop people. We always stay there. But like if it's a once in a lifetime thing and you can do it, go all the way because it's an experience.
I mean, you'll never go wrong with any of the resorts.
No.
We will tell you that if you stay at a value resort, especially the All-Stars sports specifically, those are the ones that they fill up with cheerleading and volleyball and basketball and softball competitions. I don't even know, all soccer maybe. There's a lot of times a year there's always some kind of competition going on. So just be prepared for that. So if you're a person that likes quiet, that may not be the resort for you.
Yeah, especially like Pop Warner time, January, February.
Yeah.
It's going to be real loud. I've heard all sorts of horror stories with just punk kids and sports kids. And
Well, I just know that Nick was there one time and he's like, oh my gosh, everywhere I was looking, da da da. And I'm like, you're an old man. He's not. That's the thing that's bad. But he was like, da, da, da. I'm like, if that was your kid, you would be like, oh, okay. So that's like the people that are taking a trip for the once in a lifetime. And then if you got the people that are every 5 to 10 years, again, you could save up for the deluxe or know that you're going to do a moderate every 5 to 10. If you're only coming every 5 to 10 years and you're saving up, that might be something that you want to do. Again, the difference between a value, moderate, and deluxe, if you've never listened to these episodes, Brad and I last fall, and some of the agents too, helped do episodes, listeners, that you can go back and look. And we talked and broke down each resort so that you knew why they were labeled that. And it all boils down to amenities. And the more you pay, the better it is. But I've seen where the rich people live now, and it's really going to be hard to go back.
It'd be like spending a week in Royal Oaks and then going straight to All Stars. You'd be like, I quit.
It would be like living in Royal Oaks and then having to come back to my ranch here. And I saw a home the other day. One of the vloggers is looking for a home, and I showed Kaylee, he's looking at a $15 million home. And she goes, well, this is his full-time job. I'm like, he's a vlogger. He's going to move into a $15 million home?
No, he ain't swinging that hard yet.
Well, I'm just like, really?
Yeah, sometimes I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like, hey, you maybe should be gloating so much, buddy.
Well, the thing is, when he goes home to his home, it's like a modest home like what we live in. And I'm thinking, I would rather take a vacation and live in a modest home than live in this home. I'm just like, but I know vacation's his life. Anyways, let's go back.
I always look at it like once in a lifetime, deluxe. If you're every 4, 5, 6 years, moderates. If you're every year, values. Because like that's and obviously that's just my opinion. But well, I'm there for 10 days. I'm not in my room.
Right.
We are never in our room. Only come back, take a nap, and then we're gone the rest of the night. And if I had a little more time and we were at a deluxe, I would be like, let's hang out. Especially at the Poly. Like obviously, I'm super biased with for the Poly. But I mean, like any of those monorail resorts, you can just hang out at.
Yes. They're all so unique and different. And that's the thing that you also need to think about when you're planning your trip is your personality. Now, Contemporary to me, I really do want to stay there sometime. And before I thought it was kind of, I don't know if I want to say luxurious, but more stuffy than like Poly or Wilderness. Just I felt like more higher money making people or whatever would stay there. But now they have it themed as incredible. So I kind of feel like I'm sure they did that so that it made it more for a family.
Yeah, and every time everybody hears things of Contemporary, they just think of the main building. But most of the rooms are out in like the garden rooms, the garden wings. That's another thing to think of too. You book a Contemporary, you want to make sure you're gonna be in that tower. That's the best part.
Right.
Contemporary is cool. I think I stayed there in '92. And we were inside the main building, and it was like the coolest thing in the world to walk out of your room and look down in the lobby, and there was Chef Mickey's, the monorail.
That would be very cool.
Oh, super cool. That's like one of the few things I remember for that trip.
Well, that's Brad's dream resort, so I've got to make that happen sometime soon.
Really? Contemporary?
Well, I don't know why. I think it's because the monorail goes through it.
Yeah.
And that has always been our thing, is if you're not going to spend that much time in the room, don't pay for that.
And being people that want to go every year, for what a 8-day trip would cost at a deluxe, we can go twice.
Right. And that's always been our thought process in it. But I really do think that Brad just wants to stay at the Contemporary because the monorail goes through it. That's the only thing that he's never really said what his reasoning is behind that. Kaylee likes the grand feel. And she's never said this, but I think it's all the commercials with Cinderella coming down the stairs at the Grand Floridian. So that's the one she's always wanted to stay. So we'll have to live out these dreams. I just don't know when. It's going to be a while before we do that. But anyway, so that's what you need to think about. And then another thing I would say is look at the resort and see if it's you.
Yeah.
There are some resorts that I look at and I'm like, I could stay there, but I'd rather stay here.
Yeah, like boardwalk, like beach, and like I'm like, like they don't do anything for me. Like they're beautiful and the boardwalk's cool, and I've eaten at Yachtsman and the Flying Fish, but that's just not my vibe.
Right.
You know, my vibes, but the Poly, Pop, Caribbean Beach is nice. I mean, I stayed at a bunch of different resorts, and each and every one was awesome, but just in a different way.
Right.
Because, like, a lot of people don't like the All-Stars because the theming is, like, over the top, huge. You know, huge figures, huge everything.
And I love that.
Yeah, and then as you go up the pay scale, the theming changes. So, obviously, values, it's over the top, moderates, it's slightly lessened, and then deluxes are themed around the solely the resort.
Yeah, so my in-laws would die though if we took them to something like even moderate would flip them out because they're just so, well, the values would be, I don't know if we could ever take them actually, because the values would be, they're from a small town. The values would be too people-y for them. Yeah. And everything else would make them feel uncomfortable. I just remember taking Brad's mom to the dress shop to pick out her dress for her wedding, and the poor woman, I thought she was going to have a nervous breakdown. And then we went to lunch, and they don't go to restaurants that have like menus you hold. The menu, it's, you know.
Right.
And so the poor thing, she didn't know what to do. So that's another thing to consider. If you're not a person that is used to doing that, then you need to consider that kind of thing when you're planning all this out. I don't know.
I mean, a family like that, I'd almost send them to like Saratoga Springs.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere that's, you know, Riverside that has more of like a homey vibe. Because, yeah, you know, I couldn't even imagine coming from like a tiny town and then being on Main Street for fireworks. That would be...
It just wouldn't happen. Yeah. I feel so bad. I just remember we moved here, and this whole area where I'm at was farmland when I was growing up. And from the time we moved in until 2 years later, it built up so much that they got lost and couldn't find our house. They didn't know where to turn, and they ended up in old O'Fallon, Missouri. And they called us, and they didn't know, and they had to call us on a payphone because they don't have cell phones. And they're like, we don't know where we are. And then they were yelling at Brad, you moved to like New York. And Brad's like, this is not New York, and nowhere near. If they went to New York, I think they'd have a coroner if they went to New York. So,
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that is a fast version of that. But I wanted us to talk about what kind, you could do a Disney vacation that truly is a vacation. Like we said, with the splitting it up, maybe go to a couple parks and then take a couple days off, and go to a couple parks and take a couple days off. Or you could do what Brad and I did and see what it was like. And we were only there for almost 4 days, was the no park.
Yeah, see, that would be crazy.
It would, but you know what? If you're still in the bubble and you're going to dinner and you're using the amenities and stuff.
Right, and getting the customer service.
Yeah, I didn't miss that. I enjoyed the time that we had together and the pools, you know, because it was wilderness. So if you stay at one of the nicer resort, more secluded, and honestly, when we were doing the reviews, I don't know if you remember this or if you even heard it, but the French Quarter is the one that they recommend for couples. And I had never really heard that, but that's what when we were researching, we found out, because it is so secluded and smaller.
And quiet.
Yeah.
I've heard it numerous times about how quiet French Quarter is.
And so that's an awesome thing. In fact, there was a couple going, the one that I booked for, they're going in a couple weeks. And I said, oh, it's your anniversary? Well, did you ever, because she had me price Riverside. I said, well, we read that this is a really romantic place. And she's like, And then they ended up deciding on Animal Kingdom because we were able to get the discount. But that's the other thing. If you're going to the resort and you happen upon a promotion, sometimes you can get a moderate for a value, what would be a value price, and sometimes you can get a deluxe for what would be a moderate, which is what happened last year with us.
Yeah, that's how we always used to stay at deluxes, was with the free dining, because it would comp out where when I'm paying a moderate price, I'd rather just stay, you know, at Fort Wilderness. That's another great one to just hang out at.
Yes.
I mean, there's got to be people that do trips like the opposite of the most of us, where it's like, no, we only go to the parks for like an hour, ride one ride, and go back to the resort. Yeah, that would be leaning more on like a vacation.
Right.
I just can't do that down there.
No, I'm just saying you feel like you're not doing what you were there to do.
Right. True. I mean, and there's still tons of things I have yet to do, but it's always that fear of missing out, FOMO.
Like what might be new that I didn't, and the craziest thing of all is, as many times as we've all been there,
Yeah.
There's still things we haven't done. There's still places we haven't eaten. There's still resorts we haven't stayed at. I mean, it's...
Oh, just outside of the park experiences alone, I haven't touched anything on the list. And there's a bunch. Like, I want to do the fishing excursions. I want to do that real bad because I'm a huge fisherman.
Yeah.
Tons of stuff, you know, boat rentals, especially like over by the Poly and Contemporary. You can rent, you know, a pontoon boat. It's a little pricey, like $45 for a half hour. But like, you want to talk about a different view of the world, like, we should probably do that next time. It'd be a great report on, because we're big. We're big into boats and water, so we love that kind of stuff.
We want to do the fireworks one, and we really thought about it in October, but I feel like the trip just kind of took over. I mean, again, you know, you were trying to pack it in, but it's $400. You get 10 people, so that's like $40 a person, and you get to watch the fireworks from the water.
Is that the private one?
Yeah.
Yeah. My sister's done the one on the big boat.
Which one?
Was it the Pirates fireworks one? Yeah, you'd meet like Pan and Hook afterwards when you get back to the dock. I think that was for Wishes, so it was a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
She said that was worth it. It's a different view. You still get the music.
But you don't have the crowd.
Yeah, no crowd at all.
And a whole nother perspective is what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And the carriage rides, have you ever done those?
Nope.
Yeah, and so I have a client that's getting ready to do that for her daughter's 6th birthday. And hopefully if she's listening, her mom can turn it down.
I could, I'll never say don't go to the parks, but there's so many things you could do down there and never touch the parks that you could easily make, a 6-day vacation out of it. Right.
And so the 2020 Christmas, we were supposed to take my mom, but then it was still so
iffy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And she has 2 underlying things that, she's had breast cancer twice. She's had a double mastectomy, and then she has rheumatoid and she has fibromyalgia. So, and she has asthma.
That's exactly like my mom.
Well, so we just have to be protective, and we weren't sure. And I'm glad we waited because that gave her an opportunity just to see the bubble. She just couldn't picture in her mind the enormity of it.
No one can. No one can understand the scope. I mean, it's 45 square miles. It's insane.
That is insane.
Like, it's anyone I've ever taken, like adults, first timers, they just were like, I just didn't understand. I just didn't understand how big this was. And then, they all want to, of course, go back.
Right. I have that one client that takes his grandkids when they turn 9.
Yeah, like Grandpa's that guy's awesome.
And that I just feel bad because he still has 5 more years, and that poor man is 70 years old. And those kids they didn't take a break. Those are your people.
Nice.
They went from park open to park closed. And, I will say that they did eat breakfast in their room. They stay at Animal Kingdom at Savannah, the Savannah View. Mm-hmm. They eat their breakfast on the deck and watch the animals for a little bit, and then they go to the parks. But they were going. And then the days they weren't at Disney, they were at Discovery Cove or they were at Universal. And you're like, you're wearing me out, and I am not your age.
At Discovery Cove, I'd love to go there. That's on the list.
But yeah, I heard it's fantastic. Yeah. His poor wife had blisters so bad on her feet, like for weeks. I was checking on her because she had them so bad, but crazy. So these are just things that you need to think about if you're taking a trip. And I know that people tease, is there a couch to 5K? Maybe somebody needs to make one because I've looked and there isn't really one made up, or it's the couch to Disney World. Because it's not something that you can take lightly. You can't or you shouldn't wear flip-flops. I know Nick does. I still don't get how he can, but you need to have good walking shoes or like hiking shoes or like Chaco sandals that you've broken. Do not wear that stuff. You will have blisters if you do that.
Yeah, you have no idea what's coming.
The bottom line is Disney is a vacation. Some of us treat it more like an experience, like Matt's saying, which is crazy because we all do go there every year, but we still like, oh, we have to do this. Oh, and we have to eat the Nutella waffle with fruit. Oh, we have to go all these places. So Disney can be a vacation for sure. Is there anything that you had in your notes that you wanted to add?
No, I think we covered most of what I had written down there. It's something you need to sit down and plan out. Don't take it lightly. That's the downside of what the parks have become is, don't be those people that don't listen to anybody, don't heed the warning, and you just show up thinking you're going to have the commercial of a day. And I'm sorry, it's a ton of planning. And that, I think, is always what, to me, takes away from the vacation aspect of it and turn it into an experience, because there's so much going on that it's a lot of planning. And that's where we come in handy, because we can do that all for you and make it as magical as it can be. Because, some of the best memories in my life thus far has been at Walt Disney World.
Yeah, it's a shameless plug, but we are serious.
Yeah.
I know that one of our colleagues had somebody say, well, can you do this, what Costco can do? And she's like, okay, well, you can book your trip through Costco, but Costco doesn't have, people that have been to Disney World, they're just the people that you're dealing with there, not necessarily, they'll sell you the tickets and the package, but they don't have the knowledge, and they're not going to get up at 5 a.m. and do your dining reservations for you.
Or sit on hold for 7 hours to adjust things. They're not, I'm attached to those parks. All my children have been going since in utero. I asked my wife to marry me in front of Cinderella's castle. We were married on the Walter Elias train. It goes deep with us.
Right. So we love it. And we truly, you may not, we say you're Ohana. We mean that. Disney is a family. Matt and I talked about that because we've only known each other a short time, although I feel like you're kind of my brother at this point.
Yeah.
He listened to the show, called in, now he works with us, and he's just part of family. And that's how everybody is to us. We want to make the trip like we want it for us, but cater it to you. So that's why we're Your Story Travel, because we're writing your story. However, we're going to try to make it magical for you. So I know it seems like we're saying this over and over, but honestly, it's easier with an agent. Yeah. And I can tell you that because I did it without an agent the first trip. And so it's just different. And it's much nicer for us to map things out for you and let you know. I know I had to sit with one family because they had anxiety. And so I literally took a map and walked them through the park so that they knew when they got in there exactly where they were headed so that they didn't feel anxious about it at all.
Right. And point out little nooks and crannies like, hey, you can chill over here, grab a snack here, go over here. There's not going to be anybody, and calm down and get about your day. It's all those little things that make a huge, huge difference.
Right. And that's why Kaylee keeps telling me not to say all of them on this podcast so that everybody knows what they.
We could do this every day about a different topic. And we're never going to cover it all. I've been so deep into this stuff for so long now, and there's still so much left I haven't touched.
And that, I think, is probably one of the most magical parts about it.
Yeah, and it's always changing, and it's always, advancing. And where else do you get that? You go to the beach, it's the same beach year after year.
Right. Thank you for joining us. We hope this helped you understand the Disney vacation quandary. And we also hope we helped you decide what type of Disney vacation you would like for your family. A few final reminders before we sign off. If you are interested in being a guest on our show or you have a question or a comment, please text us at 636-373-4497. If you'd like to book a trip or you just want a free quote, you can text Matt or me, Vickie, at 636-373-4497.
You can check us out on our social media accounts, yourstorytravel.com, or our Facebook page, The Mousecapades Podcast. As always, thanks for listening to the #1 podcast that entertains the space between your ears, The Mousecapades and More Podcast. Be sure to listen to the Wednesday show when we dish out all the latest rumors and news and chat with the gang.
Well, Matt, I think it's about that time. Disney love.
Hurry back.
Have a magical day, my friends.
Barely even sure as the sun will rise.